The four-day ANC NEC meeting enters its third day today in Boksburg, that's east of Johannesburg. There will be a report back on work done on the reconfiguration of the alliance, the much-anticipated Alliance Economic Summit, and the strategic framework on coalitions. SABC Senior political reporter Samkele Maseko joins me now live from Boksburg. Samkele, very good morning to you, or this afternoon, in fact. Thanks indeed for your time. The BRICS Summit expected to be one of the things that will be key discussions, coalitions, as I mentioned in my intro, and also the SACP possibly contesting elections.
Indeed, Crisalda, the SACP has been pushing for a reconfigured alliance and saying that they can only contest alongside the African National Congress in next year's general elections if there is a reconfigured alliance, a threat that the SACP continuously makes to the liberation movement and to the governing party. They once contested in Metsi Mahulu and quickly backtracked from contesting in that local government election back in 2016. Subsequent to that, in 2021, they no longer contested. So you can imagine that the likes of Matota Sambata, who is the MEC of Health in the Northwest Province, the likes of Bonagale Machuba, the MEC of Education in Mpumalanga, and also Jacob Mamabulu, the MEC of Transport, the MEC of Finance in Gauteng, how they would be eyeing those particular discussions in the SACP. The likes of Bladen Zemande, who are in cabinet, the likes of Chulasizwe Nxisi, who are also in cabinet, having to go it alone and giving up those cushy government jobs that come with them being in alliance with the African National Congress. So I don't see the SACP contesting any election anytime soon at a national level. They will be presenting that particular document of a reconfigured alliance, which the NEC will then mull over and then get back to the South African Communist Party.
Samkele, key at this particular point, yesterday we spoke about the issue of load shedding. One of the key stumbling blocks, I guess, for the governing party at this particular point. What do we see the possible way forward shaped like? Given that we saw in a clip earlier the ANC president saying there isn't any, fighting that's taking place between these different ministers, everything is aligned. Most people don't believe that.
Many people don't believe that there is an alignment when it comes to Minister Pravin Gordhan, Minister Kwere Mantashe, and Mr. Dr. Jose Ramokgopa, knowing very well that there is that internal silent war going on within the African National Congress when it comes to the just transition of South Africa's energy trajectory. When you look at those like Barbara Creasy, who are pushing for renewable energy, solar energy, and pushing for independent power producers, then you've got the likes of Kwere Mantashe, who's perceived as a fossil fuel dinosaur. Just on Friday, he was opening a new shaft of coal in Mpumalanga, in a coal mine in that particular coal belt of the province, Mpumalanga, saying that coal is here to stay for a very long time. So the debate on the just transition is raging within the African National Congress, and the likes of Kwere Mantashe, who like having power of influencing those who are in charge, particularly the incumbent head of state, will not let the battle of coal die down anytime soon. You've also had the Minister of Electricity, Dr. Jose Ramokgopa, who is pretty much seemingly aligned to the vision and to the perspective of Kwere Mantashe when it comes to the issue of continuing with the base load of coal. But the main thrust and the main bone of contention is the powers of the Minister of Electricity, because for him to be able to do his job, he needs certain powers to be taken away from Minister Mantashe and also Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan, whom the President says the Minister of Public Enterprises' role is squarely to look at the business function and the unbundling of the power utility in breaking it up into 3 different divisions to make it a viable business, which is distribution, transmission, and generation, which the Minister of Public Enterprises has yet to come to the South African public and the nation to say that they have fully and effectively unbundled Eskom. The minister is also seized with finding a new chief executive officer or group chief executive officer of the power utility Eskom after the resignation of Andre Director, or well, he may have been fired as well, knowing that the agreement that was there for him to leave earlier on was then agreed upon after that explosive interview he had in revealing that certain politicians and high people were wanting to eat illegally at the power utility. Then you've got Gwede Mantashe, that the president says that the role of the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy is that of a regulatory basis, and the role of the Minister of Electricity, Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, is to make sure that there is energy generation, which effectively gives the Minister of Electricity control of all of the coal-powered fleet in South Africa, all 84 generating units of Eskom through their coal belts. You've heard him yesterday speaking about the open gas turbines that he is going to be servicing and ramping up in order to be a short-term 0 to 6 month solution in burning diesel to make sure that there is energy efficiency and energy distribution to the South African population and to the business fraternity to make sure that the economy is not grouted to an end.
A bit of a backtrack yesterday, Sam, in the ending of load shedding. We're hearing the ANC, what they said versus the concession, if I may call it that, by Dr. Ramokgopa, that, knowing what he knows now, it doesn't look technically possible. And also just touch on, before we let you go, the BRICS summit that is coming up in August and the bones of contention around the Vladimir Putin, President Vladimir Putin's arrival in South Africa.
Well, Griselda, to put it bluntly, politicians can speak all they want. We were once promised by one former president that he will now go back and report to the nation that there will never ever be load shedding ever again. Load shedding came back. Fikile Mbalula, politician, secretary general of the ANC, not an engineer, not a technocrat, not a bureaucrat, came out and said they would want load shedding to be ended within a year. In the interview we had, that exclusive with Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, he said he will not lie to the South African nation. He will not lie to the people. He will not put timelines on when they will eradicate load shedding. Yesterday, he went back on his word, but he deviated and differed with the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula, who said load shedding would be a thing of the end by the end of the year. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, a civil engineer by profession, a person who deals with the issues of technical equipment, being honest with the nation, saying that they will not eradicate load shedding before the end of the year. So that's the problem in South Africa. Politicians tend to put timelines, yet they don't do the job. It's the technocrats who do the job, whom speak less, but politicians speak more, with politicians knowing less of what is actually the problem with fixing some of the problems that the power utility faces. The NEC will also mull over the upcoming BRICS summit. You heard Hage Geingob, the president of SWAPO and president of Namibia, criticizing South Africa for still being a signatory and being part of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, saying that Africa has sufficient courts. And why does it look like whenever there is a problem, South Africa is being set up to arrest sitting presidents of other countries? A similar situation happened when former President Jacob Zuma was still at the helm of the country, when there was a warrant of arrest out against former Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir. The same time around this time, President Vladimir Putin is scheduled to arrive in the country for the BRICS summit in August. The ICC issues out a warrant of arrest for President Vladimir Putin, putting South Africa's international relations and diplomatic relations with other countries at risk, knowing the relationship South Africa has with a fellow BRICS nation, which is Russia, which is one of the two dominant forces in the BRICS establishment with the Republic of China.
Samkele Maseko, thank you very much indeed. You're watching that for us.